So Jagged is an EdTech startup based here in the UAE. And the goal of Jagged is of igniting ambitions and developing high impact within the MENA region in the mentorship industry. Jagged leverages on technology to reimagine the way that high school students seek guidance and receive help. Our goal is to provide accessible and personalized mentorship to high school students in the region and helping them get into their preferred university while also transitioning from high school life to university life. We employ a swipe to match model on our application, which helps connect high schoolers specifically with current university students that best match their profile. On this application, we also have a forum and we will also have a chatting feature. At the same time, we recommend a lot of personalized content to the students via our smart algorithms. And we do this with our monthly events as well, by producing this content and producing these informative events and articles. We strive to be the #1 content and platform provider in the UAE for students who are wishing to both study locally and abroad, from students of all backgrounds and all different parts of the world. We hope to spread the Jagged message and get both high school students and university students signing up. So if you are a high school student, please sign up through our mentee sign up form. You can find that on our Instagram by clicking the link tree on our bio. And if you're a university student or you're employed and you're just simply interested in Jagged as a platform or even participating as a mentor in the future, once our app is launched, please also follow us there and join the mailing list. Our first mailing list of this semester will come out tomorrow, inshallah, and then our next mailing list in a couple of weeks. And everything else can be found again on our Instagram page. So today's event will obviously be about hobbies with our host Ammar, who will now take the stage and introduce everyone and begin the discussion. Thank you, everyone. And feel free to ask any questions throughout the whole webinar. You can also participate by speaking. And yeah, that is all from me. You can take the lead, Ammar.
Thank you, Salim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Ammar Al. I'm a mechanical engineer working in ADNOC. Thank you all for joining our Jagged event today. And the topic is about extracurricular activities. So with that being said, I'd like to explain to you guys what I like to do. I like to do any extracurricular activities that have to do with fitness and making sure that your body is healthy so that your brain is always sharp. So anything from CrossFit, tennis, paddle tennis to football are some of the things that I really enjoy to do. And as you guys will probably notice, I really enjoy public speaking as well. So that's something that really is a passion of mine and it's something that drives me every day. So today we have a very exciting panel with some of the most brightest people that I've met, young people. They are doing amazing things within their lives. We have Alia AlMansoori, the scientist, Fatima, the writer, and we have Majid, the photographer and entrepreneur. And I can probably spend the whole session talking about all of the accolades that these inspiring people have, but then I wouldn't be doing them any justice. So what I'll do is I'll let each member of the panel speak to us in more details about what they're up to and some of their extracurricular activities. So let's start with Alia. Alia, go ahead. The mic is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alia AlMansoori. I'm 18 years old. I'm a student at the University of Edinburgh studying biological sciences. And I love science so much. It's one of the things that I do every single day in my life. And it's something that I want to be in the future as a scientist. I've done a couple of projects before on stem cells and something related to space sciences. And yeah, I'm really excited for this panel.
Let's move on to Fatima. Fatima, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fatima AlJarman. I'm 19. I'm currently on a gap year of sorts. I'm a writer. I do a bit of art. I do a bit of illustrating, do some design. But my sort of most intensive project is a publication that I run called Unootha. It is a space and community that publishes and features the work of Middle Eastern and North African women. As for what I want to do in uni, I'm a prospective lit major, but I also want to double major, and that space is wide open for me to experiment.
Thank you, Fatima. I can see in the chat a lot of people are writing Fatima is amazing, so I'm sure I can agree to that too. Majid, what about you? Tell us about yourself.
Majid Al Bastaki, 19 years old. I'm an architectural engineering student, photographer, and co-founder of Flax Board Game Cafe in Sharjah.
Thank you very much, Majid. And I recommend everyone to go to his cafe. It's a really cool place, to be honest.
Thank you.
You're welcome, my friend. So what we'll be doing today is we'll be talking to our panelists about some of the extracurricular activities that they're doing currently in their lives, some of the life lessons that they've learned, and also a whole bunch of other things, inshallah. And I'll be asking the questions in English, but if you feel free to answer in either English or Arabic, that's okay. I'll be translating just because I want to keep in mind the people that, or the non-Arabic speakers that we have maybe in the audience. So again, this is a session that's going to flow naturally. So let's have a good conversation. I think the first question I'd like to ask the panelists is, what hobbies have you experimented with throughout your years? It can be hobbies that you're still doing and extracurricular activities that you're still doing, or some of the things that you maybe have experienced throughout the years but didn't stick to. And I'll just leave the floor to any member of the panelists that would like to speak. So go ahead, the floor is yours.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We'll start with Majid and then we'll go with Alia.
Okay, thank you. I've experimented with many physical hobbies like football, volleyball, tennis, and then I went toward arts like sketching, drawing, and in my free time, I always go and take some photographs.
That's amazing, mashallah, Majid. And I'm sure a lot of people, if they follow your account, they can see that you're a really, really good photographer. And he does it all with an iPhone, if I'm not mistaken. So that makes it even a bit more impressive, mashallah.
Thank you.
Well done. Alia, go ahead. You wanted to chime in?
Yeah. I mean, I was a creative person when I was young. I used to paint a lot and everything. I still write poetry here and there. But I did experiment a lot with the sciences, and I know that's maybe not like a hobby, but I used to think that I wanted to be a physicist at some point. I liked chemistry at some point, and if anyone's doing chemistry, they would know it's not it. And, you know, it's all built up to a point where I started doing biology and I just loved it so much. But yeah, I experimented a lot with the different sciences. I wanted to be an engineer at some point, did not work out either. But I think all of these experimentations kind of showed me that biology is what I want to do.
I think my experience was like inverse, where I was super immersed in STEM. Like when I started in high school, I was so convinced I was going to be an astrophysicist. Like that was my biggest dream. So I was always involved in like science fairs, and I was in the science committee, and like Neil deGrasse Tyson was like my main man, my icon, Carl Sagan. And then I just kind of reflected back to what I've always loved doing as a child, which is writing and drawing, and just being part of community spaces. I don't know, I might end up doing STEM in the future, but I don't know. I feel like I guess I'm kind of like an all or nothing person. So the things that I do, I kind of like do it really intensely. And I realize that the things I like doing most intensely are writing, or is writing. Yeah.
Thank you, Fatima. I can see a theme developing here between the different panelists. They all try different hobbies, but then they always go back to the things that they're passionate about. And I'm sure that they're still doing these things right now in their lives. So let's move on to the next question. The next question is, what encouraged you guys to take on extracurricular activities after school? What was the motive behind that?
I think for me, the things I've always started to do, or I think I've always started to do things out of pure like joy. It was always things that made me happy or made me feel fulfilled. For me, writing does that. It makes me feel really fulfilled. It also really challenges me. So that was something that encouraged me, but I feel like it's really hard to explain why you do the things you do or why you're interested in the things you're interested in. For me, it's really like innate and natural. It was like a natural instinct. I didn't have to need much encouragement to do them. But I think further along the line, what changed was I started to have, I guess, like bigger ambitions or bigger goals for myself. And that was an encouraging factor. So that kind of pushed me or drove me to work harder outside of school and not just kind of focusing on my academics, but just expanding further.
Definitely, Fatima. I think definitely challenging your passion, channeling them into your motivations, and that definitely helps in accomplishing whatever you want to do in life. What about any of the other panel members? Want to encourage you guys to do extracurricular activities after work or after school. Go ahead, Alia.
Yeah, for me, I feel like because my extracurricular is very academic in itself, it's very like school vibe kind of thing. You know, I would be in science class and I would be thinking about the extracurricular science that I was doing outside of class. And I think what encouraged me and kind of helped me separate the two was the curiosity. I feel like, you know, when you're in school, you always think, okay, I'm going to do something extracurricular that has nothing to do with my classes. But what if you have a passion that is among these classes, maybe like literature or science like me? So I think I always had these questions that I wanted to ask my teacher, but I felt like I was just bombarding her the entire class and we wouldn't learn what's in the curriculum. So, you know, I would always do some research at home and try to come up even with my own experiments, even if I could never do them. Like I would come up with an experiment. I would be like, one day I want to get a cell and I want to learn this about it, you know, even if it wasn't part of my curriculum. So curiosity really inspired me to just go further than what I was just learning in school.
That's amazing, Anya. Curiosity is definitely a good driver when it comes to some of your passions and some of the things that you want to do in life. Majid, what about you?
I think that my social life revolves about active people. My friends always encourage me to play football, volleyball, and tennis after school, which later on became a ritual for me. If we don't go and play football, I go and take some shots. I like to explore as well in my free time. So, and always share my photos on Instagram. I like to visit different sites around the UAE and especially in Sharjah. And that's what motivates me.
Yeah, definitely. The social aspect for us as humans is extremely important. And I'm glad you were able to parlay that with your photography. And definitely check out Majid's photos. His photos of Sharjah are amazing. So it gives you a different perspective of Sharjah than maybe people that don't live in Sharjah don't have. So I definitely recommend doing that. And I'd like to just remind the members of the audience, if you guys have any questions for the panelists, this is a very interactive session. So just write the questions in the chat and the members of the Jagged team will let me know. And I'll either say the questions out loud, or if you want to speak, you can just raise your hand and I'll address you, and we'll move through that. And it seems like I have a question that popped up on my screen right now. So I am going to ask it right now. So how do you create like relationships or connections with people in your hobbies like photography or writing? And now that it's all online. So I think the question is, if I have to rephrase it, is how do you create relationships with people that are in the same, let's say, the same form of extracurricular activities now that everything is being done online? And what are some of the challenges of that?
Maybe nowadays it's very easy because of Instagram. Follow the photo. I follow the photographers. I interact with their posts, stories, and that's how we get to be friends. They see my photographs. Photographers follow me, and yeah, that's how I know the photographers are in the.
Yeah, definitely. We live in a world where it's really easy to connect with people, and we're doing it right now. We're doing everything through Zoom, so that's definitely an advantage that is in our favor. What about Alia or Fatma? What do you guys think? Is it easy for you guys to communicate with people that do the same extracurricular activities as you guys?
I had a crisis, I think, when I was like 16 or 17, because I was freaking out about the same thing. I knew that, you know, if I wanted to be a writer, I need to be involved with people who would actually like read my work. I can't just like write something and send it out into like the oblivion and have no response. Especially with something that I think all work, it requires some kind of community. You can't do anything like solo by yourself. So I remember having very vividly like the same crisis and not knowing where to go. For me, the fact that things were online actually helped because, you know, I'm like socially anxious. I'm not always out there with like big groups of people. My Like my social circles were just limited to like my academic environment. So how I put myself out there was online and finding online spaces, online publications, and sending my work to them, getting feedback, and then being exposed to their community that they have, and just kind of going from there. I think it's all about putting yourself out there. And the second you do that, I think it's sort of like a ripple effect where the community just seems to continue to grow.
Thank you, Fatma.
Yeah, and I agree. I think like with online spaces, they really help, especially now because everything's online, all of the conferences, you can literally sign up for any conference happening anywhere around the world. Like I was at a conference for NASA the other day, and it was pretty cool because, you know, you had all of these cool scientists and you can ask them questions. So I think it really presents a great opportunity to meet people who are all around the world and really interact with them.
Definitely. So it seems like, according to our panelists, that social media and the power of the internet is your friend in this scenario, for sure. So let's move on to the next question. I'm usually very interested in the field of entrepreneurship and everything. And when I look at startup companies or people getting their start, for me, the journey is really important. Like, how do you get started? I feel like a lot of people might struggle with that. Like they have many different ideas in their mind, many hobbies that they like to do, but they don't know how to start. So I guess my question is for the panelists is, how did you get to your start? And maybe talk about some of the obstacles, talk about some of the things that went well. I think that would be a very interesting thing for our attendees to hear. So again, whoever wants to speak, please go ahead.
I can go first. So I think that what helped me started really was not like one specific thing or one push. I think what's important in any field is to just put yourself out there, regardless, I think, of how scared you are, because you're always going to be scared. You're always going to be worried about what the outcome is. That's something that's going to persist if you're ready and if you're not ready. But once you put yourself out there and once you have an opportunity and you seize that opportunity, you will be able to get the outcome that you're looking for, you know, regardless if you're ready or not. When I entered the competition Genes in Space, I was the youngest person in that competition, and I didn't know as much as they knew about biology and biochemistry. And I was definitely at a disadvantage, but I always felt like, you know, this is an opportunity that I need to take. Maybe this competition might not exist next year, and it didn't. So I'm glad that I took that opportunity. And yeah, so just put yourself out there, take that opportunity, regardless if you feel like you're ready or not. You will kind of, if you have that motivation, if you want to create an outcome, like send an experiment to space or be involved in the scientific community, or regardless of what you're doing, once you put yourself out there, these opportunities, the other opportunities will fall into place, and it will get easier for sure.
Definitely. And there's always a saying that I live by is you either succeed or you learn. You never fail. So that's definitely something that I'm glad Alia mentioned as well. What about you, Fatma? You seem excited to answer this question.
Listen, I've noticed something about the way I operate on Zoom, which is I nod like crazy, because if I don't do it, I'm not focusing. Like I need to like engage my body in some way. It's super weird. I think I was
I'm the same. I move my hands a lot. You guys will see that.
I have to move. It's so embarrassing, but I have to do it. For me, I feel like, so the way I started is I think I've been writing my whole life. This is what I think. I don't know if my memory is trying to like make me seem cooler than I actually am. So I think I've been writing my whole life. I think I started maybe when I was like 5. And to me, I think beginnings are usually not as like romantic or as like glamorous as people want them to be. So I'm sure like Majid, when he started, it wasn't just when, you know, he won a big competition. He started way before that. And the same with Alia. It wasn't the fact that she won Genes in Space that led her to where she is. It's the fact that she's always been interested. And in the same way, I'm able to be involved in writing communities nowadays because I've been writing my whole life. So it's only in retrospect now that I realize, oh, my beginning was at 5 years old, not because I wanted to be a writer when I was 5, but because I was just naturally inquisitive about writing, I guess. So it's all about realizing that beginnings are usually very small and very simple, and just kind of going from there and being patient.
Definitely. Being patient is definitely an important aspect of getting started in anything in life. So I definitely echo that sentiment. What about you, Majid? How did you get started?
When I was 12, we were sitting at the dining table, me and my family, and my older brother was talking about Jitex and the event and technology, everything new, all technologies. So I was sitting, I told my mom, I want to buy a camera. All of my friends had that Canon, and yeah, I told them I want to buy a camera, and she told me go for it and buy. I want to photograph my life and when we travel like this. So I went to Jitex and got the Samsung. It was a new camera with the screen. And get back to home, I've opened the camera of the box. My older brother told me, since this camera had a screen, I will download an app for you called Instagram. And since 2013, I began with photos, and I was taking photos of everything, literally the carpet, the table, the chair, everything. And alhamdulillah, day by day, I get to be better. And yeah, that's how I started.
Definitely, Majid. And I used to take pictures when we used to travel all the time too. بس Allah لا يراويك الصور. It's definitely a talent that you have. It's not something that anyone else has, for sure. So let's transition on to the next question. It's actually a question that we have prepared for the panelists, but also was asked a lot in the chat. So this must be a very popular question. And the people in attendance, it makes sense that they care about this. How do you balance your activities and your academics? It's basically about time management, and how do you guys do that efficiently?
Okay, so I'm gonna go for this. I think this might be an unpopular opinion, but university is gonna make you so busy that like even sleep is gonna be compromised. So because sleep is compromised at this point and your mental health is draining slowly, you need to kind of give yourself time to relax. And I think we have this culture all around the world of productivity. You know, people are always like, you need to wake up in the morning, you need to exercise, and then you go to your class, and then you do your activity after, and and then you do gym for like the 5th time of the day, and then you go and sleep for exactly 6 hours, wake up, do the same thing. Not it. That's not going to work in university. And I learned that the hard way. So I think when it comes to these extracurricular activities, and especially my activity requires a lot of time and focus, I kind of put it aside. And yeah, I'll read like scientific papers every now and then. I like to read some books during my free time. But I think putting your mental health at the forefront is really important. Regardless of how passionate you are about that activity, regardless of how passionate you are about your business, when you're in university, you require that kind of focus, So yeah, just focus on doing these activities when you have summer break, winter break, spring break, and usually these are long, so you get the opportunity to like explore what you want. Yeah,
definitely prioritizing mental health is extremely important, because you want to be sharp in everything that you do. Even if they're extracurricular activities or side hobbies, you want to be able to be 100% of yourself. So definitely that is extremely important. What about any of the other panelists? How do you guys balance between your extracurricular activities and between your academics?
For me, I definitely agree with Alia. For me, I feel like the idea of balance is like a myth. It does not exist. And it's something that I struggle with every single day. And you can like look at us and like look at, like these romantic things that we've done all our lives, but there's so much compromise and so much sacrifice in between. For me, it's like trial and error. So every single day I wake up and I try to figure out how to balance everything I need to do. And I always end up not completing my to-do list. I always end up missing out on something. And that's just kind of the fact of the matter. I think all of us have so much more that we're balancing than we kind of like consciously realize. So it's not just academics or your activities. You're also, like Ali mentioned, mental health, your physical well-being, your emotional well-being, your like family matters, your like family duties, and so on. Like the list continues, and you're kind of like personal duties will look vastly different from mine, for example. So in that sense, your balance will not look like mine either. So it's all about reflecting and figuring out what you prioritize personally as an individual and creating your balance equation out of that. So I'm someone who really loves I'm literally a nerd. So I'm obsessed with academics. Like it's something that fulfills me, but that's not how it is for everyone. So in the same way, you can't compare yourself to my balance equation, which is going to prioritize academics to a high degree. You have to reflect and figure out what's something that fulfills you and fulfills your life and makes you want to wake up every day, and just kind of make sure that you balance everything out and you're not neglecting yourself. Yeah.
Definitely. So just to summarize, figure out what you like, figure out what you're passionate about, set a priority list, because that's extremely important. Set goals that are achievable for yourself, and then just go get it. I feel like that's a good summary, right, Fatma? Maid, what about you? How do you balance between photography and between your academics? I know you have a very challenging major, so we're interested to hear about you.
In high school, I was balancing my activities and studies easily because I write my notes, participate, and focus in class. So revising after class doesn't take that much time for me. And afternoon or at evening, I go to take some photos. But now in your university, architectural engineering is not an easy major. I let my weekends to take photos. I don't study at the weekends. I don't work even for my cafe at the weekends, only Saturday sometimes. But on weekdays, I focus on university, on my cafe. And at evening, I see the cafe and like this. But on daily basis, I study. And weekends, I keep for photos. Only if the weather was really nice, I skip the studies, I skip everything and go and take some photos.
Yeah, so definitely that goes back to prioritizing what's important to you currently in your life. But then again, don't be afraid to stray from the plan if the weather is nice.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I have a question actually from the audience. It's a bit of a lengthy question. And it's directed to Alia. She says that she's a student in Al-Mawakib Al-Khawanit. So me and Alia being both alumni of Al-Mawakib school, I have to include this question. I'm sorry, I'm a bit biased there. But she's saying, I really hope to graduate and study engineering physics abroad. My question to Alia AlMansoori, because she's studying a STEM major in university, what do you recommend that she does right now to get accepted to the top universities in either America or Canada? What should I do to increase my knowledge in this field? Go ahead, Alia.
Yeah, so I think I've applied to universities in America and Canada and in the UK as well. I mean, when I was in her place, I used to like apply to everything, and I didn't like specifically choose universities. And though I think that's a good system, because the way that the American universities work is like a lottery. They don't usually choose a lot of international students, and when you're applying, you need to keep that in mind, because sometimes, you know, you might not get accepted to the university that you want, and that might make you feel sad, but like you need to understand how the process works. But also definitely like doing extracurriculars, helping out with your community is something that's really important, and that's something that everyone should do regardless if they're trying to get into university or not. So I think at the end of the day, like something that's university specific is SAT. That is the most important thing. And the second one is to do something that you love truly, because if you don't truly love the thing that you're doing, it's going to show. Like if you're doing community service just for the sake of doing community service, it's going to show. But let's say you like physics, so you plan an event because you really want to plan this event and you want to meet people who have the same interests, then that's going to show that you are doing something that you're passionate about. And yeah, just stick to what you like doing most, and it's going to show.
Definitely. And just to build up on that, because I actually graduated from America myself. What you need to do is you need to figure out that these people are receiving applications yearly, millions of applications that more or less look the same. So how do you distinguish yourself from the rest of the pack, right? as Alia mentioned, do some of the things that interest you, some of the extracurricular activities, some social work. But it makes sense to do these things within your passions. So that is definitely very good sound advice from Alia. Let's move on to the next question now. Now, I hope that you guys are seeing a theme that's happening here. We're talking about how they got into these extracurricular, what are the extracurricular activities, how they got into them. And now we want to talk about what are some of the life lessons that our panelists have learned throughout their experience with their extracurricular activities. Go ahead, Majid. تفضل.
Yeah, I really learned that doing something you're passionate about will lead you to recognition and will help you grow.
Definitely. Again, passion is a very, very big motivator for everyone here. So I definitely agree with that sentiment. What about Fatma? Fatma, what are some of the life lessons that you've learned from writing and all of your extracurricular activities?
I don't know if I said this before, but something that I learned is that things take time. So like I'm able to do all the things I'm able to do today, but it's only because it's like 14 years of work done behind the scenes, and things that I've done for a really long time. In the same way, in looking at like my future, I know that there is so much more that I want to do and so much more that I want to accomplish, but it's going to take years and years and years and decades and decades and decades. So things take time. I think it's really easy to look at the shining like badge and want it really, really badly, but it's really hard to kind of trust the process and take your time with the process, and enjoying and like doing everything for the process and not for the shining badge at the end. So things take time, and you, I think, Ammar, you mentioned this, which is you have to really love what you're doing. So if you're doing something and you're taking time with it, you have to really, really love it, and you can't just kind of like dedicate yourself to something that doesn't feel true to you. And I think also Alia mentioned this, which is fear. You're always going to be afraid. It does not get like easier. I'm just as afraid to do things now as I was at the beginning. So it's all about feeling that fear and realizing that it's such a normal human reaction. It is not indicative of like being weak or incapable. Like being fearful is so normal. And if anything, I feel like if you fear something, it shows how much you care about it, which is a sign for you to do it even more. So it's things take time, and be afraid, and that's okay. Like let that fear guide you.
Definitely, and I do agree also that the journey is also sometimes better than the destination itself. So I agree with that. Alia, what about you? What are some of the life lessons that you want to share with us today?
I think something that I've learned a lot from the scientific method or the scientific process is that things are going to fail. Like you need to keep on doing trial and error in everything in your life, whether it was an experiment in a lab or a study method or what you like to do with your free time. You're always going to have to use that kind of trial and error method. If something's not working out for you, if something's not making you happy, then try to fix it. Try to find another way to do it. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and she was telling me how she was trying so hard to get a 4.0 GPA in university, and how that was really eating up a lot of her time and her mental health. And I remember telling her, and we had this conversation about how sometimes you need to take a step back and realize what truly matters, because that 4.0 might look amazing and it might sound great to your employers or to your grad school, but is it really who you are as a person? Is it something that you want to achieve for yourself, or is it for other people? Once you get that checked off the list, once you say, I want to do something because I want to do it for me, then that's when you're going to succeed most at it. And that's because when you fail, you're going to realize that it's a learning lesson and not just, falling straight on your face.
Definitely. So knowing yourself is extremely important. And I think once a person starts to know themselves and what they're interested in and what they're mostly passionate about, then the way to success or the way to achieving their goal becomes a bit more obvious, or it becomes a bit more realistic. I think that's great advice. That's definitely great advice. So again, we'll take another question from the audience, and I apologize for everyone in attendance. We might not be able to go through all of your questions, but we'll definitely try our best. And I'm sure if you just contact any of our panelists through social media or anything like that, they're amazing people. They're very nice. I've met them this week, and I'm sure they get back to you guys for sure. So the question is from Shifa Al-Attas. She's asking, how do you stay motivated doing what you do? Now, we spoke about like you guys are passionate about all of your extracurricular activities and how important passion is. But do you guys find it that sometimes it's difficult to keep up that motivation?
Yeah, this past summer, I experienced like a deep slump, and I had absolutely no energy to do absolutely anything at all. Partially because, my mental health wasn't doing the best. So many different like factors around me that were external to me that just kind of affected my own kind of like creative process. I think it's really important to remember that everything in your life is not independent of one another. Everything is sort of connected. So when that slump hits, I think the best thing I do for me is I realize that, okay, maybe the slump is kind of necessary. Maybe this is my body being like, okay, you need to kind of relax a little bit. You need to tone it down. So I let myself kind of really just relax for a summer for the first time. It was like my first time off of like working all the time in some way. But when I like need to be motivated, I surround myself by the things that inspire me. So I read. I extensively read like newsletters by writers every single week. My friends know me. I like force them to read the newsletters, and they're like, "Papa, we really don't care," but I just have to like share it with everyone. I watch movies. I listen to music. I go out. I like walk in nature. These sort of things that just inspire me as a person or make me feel like connected to like my own humanity really just push me to do the things I love. Yeah.
Definitely. I think people need to come to the realization that motivation isn't something that you have and then just keep having. Sometimes it goes through like peaks and valleys, some days you're motivated and other days you're not motivated. Doesn't mean that you're not a hardworking person or you don't have a good work ethic. It just means that sometimes you need a break, and that's definitely okay. Alia and Majid, what do you guys think?
I think that as Fatma said, like it's really important to, take a step back and do things that motivate you, but in a different sort of way. Things like that inspire you. I think that's really important because sometimes when you feel unmotivated, as Fatma said, it's a sign from your body telling you that you need to relax, you need to calm down. Sometimes I'd be working so much that I wouldn't realize like my jaw is clenched or that like my posture is really bad. So it's important to just realize what you have around you, go out in nature, and just if you really are struggling with motivation and things like that, and you find that these things are not helping you, I know this is very taboo in our like community, but you can even seek out like help from health professionals, mental health professionals. They definitely help. Therapy, things like that will help you get back on the right track. So yeah.
Definitely. Majid, what about you?
Can you repeat the question, please?
The question was about motivation. Do you find that sometimes you lack motivation to do photography, or do you lack motivation, let's say, to work on your coffee shop, or do you find that motivation is something that you always have when it comes to doing the things you love?
On photography, when I lack motivation, I take more photos. Actually, I take more photos. The reaction of people, and that motivates me to take more photos. And in my coffee shop, actually, when I see that the sales are dropping, I get upset, or I for 2 days, 3 days, I don't see the cafe and like this. And but that's 2 days, 3 days, I come back, I talk to the staff, I motivate them, and yeah,
I definitely get your point. Sometimes, seeing results can either motivate a person or demotivate a person. So,
Yeah.
and it seems like you feed off of the energy of other people when it comes to your photography. So that gives you energy, keeps you going, keeps you
Yeah.
motivated. Definitely. That transitions us really nicely into the next question that one of the audience members has put in our chat. How do you guys leverage social media when it comes to some of the extracurricular activities that you do and some of the goals that you have in relation to those activities?
I think when it comes to social media, it's a weapon that can sometimes be used for good and sometimes can be used even against you. So I think it's important to really think about what you're posting before you post it, and realize what kind of impact it has on other people. But using it for, you know, showing your talents and inspiring others to do what they love, I think that's really important. Like posting videos on how to do certain things, or, you know, like a couple of weeks ago, I posted a video about the Hope Mars mission. So kind of like educating people on how the Hope Mars mission works and just getting everyone excited about this new scientific endeavor that the UAE is partaking in. So I think, you know, showing your talents and really going out there and trying to inspire people, because I think that's what social media is for, to even start a conversation. If you feel like there's something that is unfair in society or something that you feel like you need to talk about, you put it out on social media and you have that conversation with others. Yeah.
Definitely, it is an extremely strong tool, and it's definitely a way to start a conversation and to motivate people when it comes to some of the things that you guys like doing. So what about you, Maid? How do you leverage social media, or how do you use social media to tell people what you're doing, to maybe motivate people? I think for you it's a bit more obvious than others because most of your photography is shown on Instagram, right?
Yeah. يعني as Ali has said, يعني share I forgot the question.
It's okay. I think it's about how you use social media to tell people about your talent. And I think when it comes to you, Mind, it's your photographies of Sharjah and all of these places, they definitely motivate people. And you being a very young person that started their own business,
Yeah.
it's sometimes, you know, actions speak louder than words. You don't have to tell people what you're doing, but by showing people, they get motivated, and then maybe they can get their start in life too. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Definitely. What about Fatma? What do you think, Fatma?
So personally, I like get social media anxious. I don't like posting on social media. Like I'll post like a photo and then I'll think about it for like 15 minutes and then I'll get rid of it because I'm like, okay, I do not want to be perceived by people right now. So I try not, I don't know, I think it's just, maybe just comes from like anxiety, but I don't really like using social media, at least like Instagram, to talk about my writing. Don't know why, it just has never worked for me. So instead, how I use social media is maybe if I'm writing something, like I'll publish it somewhere and then I'll share the link. And then I'll just kind of like stay quiet about it. I won't say a thing. And if someone reads it, they read it. If they don't, that's fine. But I use social media a lot for Unootha, which is the magazine I run. Just because like Instagram and Twitter kind of have like an audience in and of itself. So that helps you build up your community. So I use that just to kind of share graphics or talk about submissions that we have opened or to interact with different platforms on the site. Yeah, so I use that for my so I use social media primarily for my magazine, but for me, I just kind of, I don't know. Yeah, just get way too anxious.
I like your answer because it shows you like both sides of the social media, like the social media, you know, usage of people. Some people they feel anxious about posting their activities and they feel self-conscious. But then for you, when it comes to your magazine, that's important to build a following and to build the people that, so that it's out there for people to know that about some of the amazing things that you're doing. So, and as Alia mentioned, it's also a double-edged sword. You need to be conscious of the things that you're putting out there because it can either motivate people, demotivate people, and that's definitely important. Perfect. Thank you, guys. So let's move on to the next question. The next question is, what opportunities have been opened up to you through your extracurricular activities or through some of your passions?
So for me, I think because the UAE is going in a direction where science is being implemented in every single sector. I think that it's something really cool, and I'm getting a lot of opportunities from that, and I think people should also take these opportunities if that's something they're interested in. I worked in New York University, Abu Dhabi, as part of the research teams, and I worked on a stem cell research project, and we got a paper published a couple of months ago. So, you know, these opportunities, like, they're not out there. It doesn't say like on their website, NYU AD looking for a young research scientist. It's more that, you know, you contact these research scientists. I was looking on the NYU AD website, and I saw different scientists working on different projects. And the one that interested me the most, I contacted the main principal investigator, and I told them I'm looking to, you know, expand my experience. And I think it's really important to even reach out when you don't see like an explicit opportunity given to you, because sometimes when it comes to some fields, they don't ask. It's just kind of there in the air, and you need to kind of approach the people first.
Yeah, and not for nothing, alhamdulillah, we live in a country where the opportunities are abundant to us. Like, if there is something that you're interested in, it's very easy to find an opportunity, a seminar or a job opportunity that comes in mind. But again, as Alia mentioned, sometimes these opportunities are just not shown in the surface, and you need to, if you're really interested about a certain topic or a certain hobby, then you need to do your own research and then maybe clinch that opportunity for yourself. What about Fatma? Fatma, what do you think? What opportunities have opened up from your writing or from your magazine?
So for me, okay, I feel like in my head I have two different answers.
Sure, I'm sure they'd like to hear both, actually.
Okay. So the first one is, like, in my head, I feel like my writing is an opportunity in and of itself. So when I sit down and write every day, that's an opportunity for me. I don't know why, but that's how it works in my head. And anything that I do outside of that is just, it keeps growing, like the circle of opportunities. It keeps growing from there. But when I was working, like when I started publishing my work, which is, I think I was 16 when I started, I noticed that there was a gap. I was looking for a community of Middle Eastern women, North African women that were writing and creating, and just in that space, especially women that were kind of like up and coming or emerging, like myself. It felt like it was either you're just getting started or you've made it. And I felt like there was no space to be kind of in between those two phases. So I saw that there was kind of like a lack of space. So that was an opportunity for me to create something. And that's where the idea for Unootha came. So, and sometimes, like Alia said, you have to kind of make opportunities for yourself. They're not always going to be there. So through Unootha, I've kind of created an opportunity, not just for myself, but for a whole community. And from there, kind of further opportunities just kind of came, I guess, like from the hard work and the time. Over the past year, Unootha was part of, we were selected to be showcased at Art Dubai, but then kind of the pandemic hit, and we ended up having a panel for Art Dubai, which is really exciting. On like a personal note, I've hosted workshops for like a student organization at Emory University. I've hosted a workshop for a student organization at Pomona College, and just kind of done that for other initiatives across the region. And that's something that I've done because of Unootha in my head, because of kind of just putting myself out there and trying to be a present member of the literary community. Yeah, so that's kind of how I'm able to kind of grow.
Definitely. So creating your own luck. This is the advice coming from Fatma. You have to always create your own luck. And the way you do that is by just hustling every day, step by step. And then that opens the doors of opportunities for everything you want to do. Majid, what about you? What about some of the opportunities that have opened, maybe from either your photography or from your business venture?
Yeah, the main opportunity in photography. Now, the main opportunity, I was being elected by the first Emirati photographers by Emirates Youth, and as well an article in Ittihad newspaper, and that features my work, and an interview in Sharjah TV. It helped me to grow my connections with many highly educated people, and led me to establish my name, Majid Al Bastaki. I took part of Exposure International Photography Festival. I guess it's the top photography festival in the Middle East, and 12 of my photos were portrayed in Shams, Sharjah Media City, and 5 photos in Sharjah events booth. And few months ago, Sheikh Sultan bin Ahmed Al Qasmi, chairman of Sharjah Media, followed me on Instagram, and this event gave me the honor to meet Sheikh Sultan bin Ahmed Al Qasmi in person, and he told me that he really likes the way I portray Sharjah's architecture, and he follows and keeps up with my profile. And it was a proud moment for me that he's following all the photos and everything.
MashaAllah, that's extremely impressive. Congratulations. Ya'tik al-afiyah. All of these are amazing, amazing accolades, and I wish you all the success in the future, inshallah. That's fantastic. If that's not motivating, I don't know what else is motivating, to be honest. Okay, moving on to the next question. Can you guys link between your major and your extracurricular activities? Do you guys think that they need to be in line, or do you think maybe that they need to be two words that are separate of each other? What do you guys think?
I mean, for me, they are connected, because to be a research scientist, you have to have a degree in that field. So it's kind of a given. But I definitely think for other fields, I think like Majid is doing, he's a photographer, but he's also doing architecture, and they link together in a good way, because you understand the way that like how beautiful buildings are, and you capture the pictures. I think there will always be a way to connect your major to what you do outside of university. But sometimes there are ways where you can just study what you like doing most, and that's really cool, because then you can just work in the field that your hobby is.
Definitely, there will always be a link between some of the things you're passionate about and your academic pursuits, for sure. Fatma, what do you think? Is there a link for you?
Personally, so I'm looking to study English literature. So in that sense, I guess it is connected. But I also want a double major. So that leaves like room for something else. But in my opinion, I feel like sometimes we might feel like pressured to, because you know our world is like mega capitalist and all these things, we might feel pressured to like commercialize or like make a job out of what we do. But I think that doesn't have to be the case if it doesn't resonate with you personally. For me, it does. I guess it makes sense for me. I want to, I guess, make a career out of writing, but that's not the only thing I want to do. Yeah, so I think it just kind of depends on you and what you kind of see yourself doing. And definitely don't feel pressured to like make a job out of something that you love. If you would like it to remain a hobby, it can stay a hobby. That is, in my head, that's so impressive in and of itself. You don't have to like make a big deal out of it or like get a degree for it. Yeah, so I think it's just about reflection and figuring out whether you want to like link them or not. And it's cool either way.
That's great. It's definitely extremely personal. Like in my case, I'm an engineer, and I enjoy public speaking, and you know there's a stereotype out there that engineers don't know how to speak. So it's kind of both ends of the spectrum, to be honest. And for me also, like my physical activities and my fitness, that's a way for me to get away from all the pressure from work, of being an engineer and all of these things happening. So I definitely see merit in what Alia is saying of your passions being your pursuits academically, and what Fatma is saying is sometimes it's okay to be separate words, and it also depends on you as a person. Mind, what do you think? Do you have a link, or do you see that it is necessary to have a link between what you study and what you do outside of university?
Yeah, يعني I really enjoy taking pictures of buildings and spaces, and by studying architecture, I could make my own space and take photos of my building as well. So it's really cool, I guess. And even before when I was in school, I really see how buildings are built. I love to take photos of the buildings, especially here in Sharjah. I see the unique buildings, the old buildings, and I really love taking photos of buildings. So, and that's helped me to study architecture, or that motivates me to study architecture.
Definitely, it seems like you have an eye for those things. Maybe something that other people don't have, and that's why maybe your photographies are so amazing. That actually makes a lot of sense now that I think of it.
Yeah, even if in my photos you'll see all of them are symmetric. I like to take the architectural. All the photos are squares, circles, straight. I don't like the الصور العوية قولتهم or yeah.
Definitely عيل لا تشوف اكونتي اذا ما تحب هالصور خليك بعيد. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. The next question is about, I think we covered a lot of things when it comes to your extracurricular activities, on how you got started, how the journey looked like, how it developed to opportunities, and some of the lessons learned in your lives. Let's talk about the future. What is the future for your extracurricular activities? Now, I asked that question in a personal sense. What do you guys think you guys will do in the future? And maybe if you guys want to talk about the region, like, will those extracurricular activities be more popular in the region, or will they stay the same? I'll leave it's kind of an open-ended question. So whatever you guys would like to talk about, that would be great.
Okay.
تفضل Majid.
I do see myself in the future building my name by sharing more photographs and capturing more attractive locations. Even though photography is, everyone's taking photos, but I like to share the photos in my way, in my way you can see Sharjah through my eyes. Everyone captures Sharjah, but I like to capture Sharjah in a way to put the art, because it's the capital of culture and art, the Sharjah. So I like to put the art and on my photos. So yeah, so I capture the photos through my eyes. So how I see Sharjah, how I love Sharjah, that's the way how I capture it.
Definitely. And it seems like your passion for photography is here to stay. It's not something that you're gonna be giving up anytime soon. And it must be nice doing it in your city. I'm sure you have a lot of love for Sharjah. So showing it in the ways that you show it must be a great honor for you. Okay, what about Fatma or Alia? What do you guys see? What's the future for your extracurricular activities? One at a time, it's okay.
So for me personally, I feel like in a lot of ways, everything that I've done is a bit unprecedented to, like, in my head, where I never really expected myself to be where I am right now a couple years ago, or like my vision for the future is drastically different from what I'm experiencing every day. So in my head, I try not to. So I have a lot of like set goals in my head, but I also remind myself that the world works in like magical, mystical ways. And I try not to limit myself to my expectations of what I can do, and just kind of let myself, I don't know, I feel like I'm learning to like let go of expectations and really go with the flow and just grow as time passes. So I don't know what I'm going to be like as a writer in 10 years time. The dream is, she got some novels. She's like New York Times bestseller, all these wonderful things. But once again, like I've kind of let go of these expectations and I'm going with the flow. But I definitely really want to be a part of the, I guess, like community literary sphere. So I feel like I'm doing a lot of things virtually now with Zoom, but I definitely want to do like on the ground work, and expand on what the literary world looks like in the UAE. And kind of like in my dream, it's like instead of people wanting to go to like New York to be a writer, they come to the UAE to be a writer because the resources are so abundant. Yeah.
Definitely. And that ties back nicely to what you said earlier. And sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. And it's okay to not know what the top of the mountain looks like. So long as you're doing your best every day, that's the most important thing. And I think there's an example that comes to my mind. There's a great podcaster called Joe Rogan. And what he was saying is that he has this podcast and he was doing it for years and he never had a goal for it. The idea was he just wanted to talk to interesting people and talk to his friends. And now his podcast sold to Spotify for, I think, like a ridiculous 100 million or something like that. So you don't always have to know what the end goal is, so long as you enjoy the process and so long as you're doing your best every day. Alia, what do you think? What is the future for you?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think humans are very open-ended, you know. Some scientists, like, they win the Nobel Prize and then the next day they move to a secret location and they spend the rest of their lives planting. And I think that sometimes, you know, I always want to do that. I just want to go away from social media and all of societal expectations and just relax in nature. And I think, as Fatima said, not to put these expectations, like these high expectations on yourself, because sometimes they're not going to work. And you need to accept that the world has different ways in working and something might work out for you and something might not. It's about making the best of the opportunity. But I think in a more general sense, definitely one day I want to be a scientist and I want to create some researches that will benefit humanity. And I think in the UAE right now, as I said before, you know, everyone's right now focusing on engineering and science, and it's gonna, I think, become more prevalent in the future as well.
Definitely some exciting things going on in those two fields in the UAE for sure. So definitely, I think those pursuits are here to stay, and we're gonna see a lot of people investing time into those two fields in the future. So finally, I wanted to ask you guys if you guys can give the members of the audience a tip, either for high schoolers or university students who want to explore extracurricular activities, but maybe have some reservations regarding that. So what are some of the tips that you guys have for those people?
Try out everything till you know what you love.
Definitely, that's important. That's important because, again, it goes back to knowing yourself. Unless you try everything, you won't really know what you're passionate about and what you're not really passionate about. So definitely go out there and try everything, and then hopefully something sticks.
I definitely agree with what Majid said. Try things. So say yes to what comes your way. I'm a bit I'm like a bit like spiritual. So I believe like if something comes to you, it's meant to come to you, or like there's some kind of like message in whatever comes your way. So if some kind of random opportunity pops up, if it's like a school, I don't know, student council position, or it's an opportunity to be a part of a competition of sorts, I think it's always good to try and see where that leads you, because you'll learn something no matter what. Even if like you don't even get considered, even if you like fail massively, you're going to learn something. But I also think that maybe some kind of like indicator of what you love to do. I read this somewhere. I'm not sure where I read this, but they say like it's a good figuring out like what your passion is. In order to do that, it's a good thing. Like it's a good indicator to kind of reflect on your childhood, because that's the only point in your life that you were kind of existing and not caring about social expectations or your own personal expectations for yourself. And you were just kind of existing, vibing, having a good time. So yeah, look at your childhood and see what you used to like to do as a kid to just kind of invigorate your existence every day. For me, it was writing. For me, it was drawing, and it continues to make me happy every single day. And it makes me feel like a child every single day, which is great. Yeah.
That's definitely important. Having a yes mentality and saying yes to all of these activities and all opportunities that come up, I think that's the best way of really figuring out what your niche is in life and what are some of the things that you might be good at, and some of the things that your talents really lend well to that certain activity or field. What about you, Alia? What's one tip you want to give our attendees?
Sorry, I just got kicked out of the Zoom because my Wi-Fi is doing a number on me.
We didn't even notice, so that's good.
Okay, I don't know how to take this, but yeah, so a tip I would give to the audience is to, just live your life, not defining yourself as the thing that you do. Because like when I introduced myself today, I said, yeah, I'm Alia, I'm 18, I go to the University of Edinburgh, I'm a scientist, whatever. But at the end of the day, if you keep kind of like if your entire personality or what you define yourself as is these these titles, or you define yourself by what you do, you will always compare yourself to others. You will always look at others and be like, this scientist is better than me, this person is smarter than me, this person is a better speaker than me, whatever it may be. In whatever field you'll be in, there will always be people better than you, and you're always going to compare yourself to them, because that's just human nature to compare yourself. But I think what's important is to separate yourself from what you do, and to kind of give yourself your own titles and remind yourself of these titles every day. Yeah, I'm Alia the scientist, but I'm also Alia the curious person, the adventurous person, so always give yourself these different titles, separate yourself from what you do, because you are your own person, and you get to, it's kind of like an empty canvas, and you can take all of the paint and just throw it all at once, and just be who you are.
Definitely, that's really sound advice. It's really important not to put titles on yourself or put a cap on what you can be in the future, because again, we're all unique in our own ways. So that's definitely very, very sound advice from Alia. Now, I think that comes to the conclusion of our session. I'd like to just open up the floor to any of the panelist members. If you guys want to say anything to the audience, if you have any parting words for us. Again, we really thank you guys for joining us today. Personally, for me, and I'm sure for everyone else in the audience, this was extremely, extremely inspiring. And it was a pleasure being part of this conversation for sure. So if you have anything to say to the members of the audience, go ahead. The floor is all yours. Anyone? We'll start with Alia. Alia is a good speaker. Alia, go ahead. What do you want to tell the members of our audience?
Just, take care of yourself. Take a step back. Don't let the way that the world works affect you, because sometimes, you're going to fail a test. And I'm not saying this because this happened recently. I'm just giving a general, a general scenario. Sometimes it's going to happen. And you know what? That's okay. Because as I said before, I am not my work. I am not a university student per se. I am my own person. And regardless of what happens, regardless if one day I drop out, which I'm not going to do, but one day if I drop out, or if I fail a test, or if I move to a secret location on Mars and decide not to contact anybody, that sounds like a really good plan right now, if anyone wants to join. But at the end of the day, I will always be who I am, and when I was born until today, we kind of like collect these experiences, and we collect all of these different people around us, and they affect the way that we act, and they affect the things that we do. But at the end of the day, we are who we are, and never forget who you are.
Definitely, knowing who you are is a very powerful thing in this life. And you mentioned something really nice that caught my attention. You're basically the sum of all of the experiences that you had. So you can only be who you are at the end of the day. So might as well not stress about it. That's definitely amazing advice. And you said you started with take care of yourself. And it's always important to invest in yourself, because no one else will. If you don't invest in yourself, who else will invest in you, right? So that's definitely great advice from Alia. What about Fatma? Fatma, what do you have to say to the members in the audience today?
I really wanted to like comment on Alia's comment, which is like, I'm not the job I do, or like, I'm not the, there's a Toni Morrison quote that is like, you are not the job you do, you are the person you are. And that like sums it up, because I think it's really easy to like be really connected to like the external things in our life. And I've definitely done this, where I would like, I guess, measure my worth by what I achieve or the achievements that come my way. But these things can be a bit empty, or they can like fade really fast. So all that matters every day is that you feel internally fulfilled and satisfied and aware of the kind of person you are, like Alia said. But also just like we're in a pandemic, we're literally in a pandemic. Like it's like you cannot put so much pressure on yourself. It's a panoramic. We need to relax. We need to calm down. Yeah, like that's honestly every single time I find myself stressing out, I just remind myself, literally the world is on fire. It's okay if I feel this way. I need to just relax and breathe. Yeah.
Thank you, Fatima. That was so like lighthearted and inspiring at the same time. So I'm not even gonna add anything to that. That was amazing. What about you, Majid? What's something you want to tell the audience before you leave as a conclusion to today's session?
As I said before, try anything, try till you know what you love, and every opportunity come to you, just grab it. Don't say no for the opportunities. And yeah, thank you, Jagged, for choosing me. I'm really glad. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. And thank you.
You're most welcome. I think if you guys look at the chat, and I'm talking to the panelists here, if you guys look at the chat, there's a lot of positive feedback when it comes to you guys, and you guys have inspired a lot of people here. And personally, for me, it's an immense honor meeting you guys and being part of this session. So thank you guys very much. Again, just follow these amazing panelists if you want to get the same dose of motivation every day through Instagram or through any of their social media channels. Thank you, guys. I'll now move on to Salim. Salim, do you have anything you want to say before we close the event?
Sorry, I'm looking at myself in different screens because I have multiple screens open for this event at the moment. But no, I just have to say that you guys did awesome. I really enjoyed it. And I just want to echo what you mentioned. If anyone in the audience wants to follow any of our panelists, I have their accounts written in the chat. You can go to our Instagram post, and I'm sure, oh my God, there's a dog on the screen. That is so exciting. I'm sure all of our panelists are open to any questions you have. They were very open to us. They kept contact with us. So y'all can contact them, follow Jagged, wait for our application launch, join our movement. And yeah, that's all I have to add. Thank you all so much for the awesome event today.
Thank you, Salman. And I just want to echo that, like, people at Jagged are doing amazing things when it comes to mentorship here in the region. And I definitely cannot wait for them to launch their app and see some of the successes that come after this app. So again, thank you for having me and all the members of the panelists. We really appreciate it. And we hope that the members of the audience gain a bit of motivation from today, gain a bit of clarity on how extracurricular activities can really have a big impact on your life. So again, thank you, everyone. Stay safe and have a good day.
Bye, everyone.